All right, y'all. Welcome to the Flex Zone, another exciting edition. Over 300 episodes of the hottest podcast there is to date. I'm your boy Dre. Unfortunately, our good brother, our host Byron, can't be here on a well-deserved vacation, but I do have the rest of the crew with me. I got Uncle Raj in the building. What's going
What
on,
it do? I'm in the building. Uncle Raj is here, the draft participant. Can't wait for this Thursday's draft. We got a lit show tonight as well. So stay tuned for more. For more.
Of course, and now I got my other brother with me. Hit
Oh,
that music, man.
don't
Oh,
you
oh
do?
yeah. No, I'm
Don't
about
you?
to do it. I'm
Don't
about to
you
do
do?
it. I'm about to do it.
Don't
I got to find it real quick. Hold on,
don't
wait a minute.
do.
In my Shawn Michaels voice, hit that
Listen.
music.
You don't
Those
have,
haters can't stand us. Left hand up. Commanders. Commanders. We fight for RDC. Who are we? The Commanders. 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 Those haters.
turn that damn music off.
Hey, they said every superhero needs his theme music. So, ladies
No.
and gentlemen, I give to you Kervante the closer.
I. What is that? I hate it. What about a cape? What about a cape? Y'all going straight to theme music. What about a cape? My heavens.
Do you have one?
Turn that damn music off. That's what I say to that.
Hey, between whatever you and your woman do at night when you go to cake, between y'all, man.
But Monday nights, y'all already know what it is. We here in the Flex Zone Man Cave. Get ready to get this good show started, man. And I'm excited about our guests tonight when they make their entrance.
Of course, yes. But today we had some breaking news.
Oh yeah.
Actually, a couple of stories broke out um, in the world. But we have our guest on deck, and I'm going to let my good brother, the Commandalorian himself, introduce this good brother.
Oh snap, that's my guy. Okay. So I've watched this brother's videos. It came across because obviously I'm a Commanders fan from DC. And his videos came across my timeline. First video I saw, I was hooked. I was like, this guy is it. He's like another Commanders insider, but he gives it to you. He gives it to you raw, gives it to you real, and very, very, very truthful. Good brother. And he has a very unique way he introduces a very unique way he introduces himself on this platform. And if you could time this up, it goes a little something like this. Who else could it be but Louis T here on the Flex Zone right now?
Hey, how y'all doing, man?
Doing
Pleasure to
good,
be
doing
here.
good, brother. Good to have you on, man.
Hey, appreciate y'all for having me.
Hey, no, not a problem, not a problem. The NFL draft is this week.
Yeah.
So how are you feeling?
I am confused. It's a lot going on, man. I felt a lot more confident about a week ago about everything, but since the Texans have decided that they don't want a quarterback or aren't interested in anybody at quarterback, things have gotten a lot more interesting. We're starting to hear a lot of stuff. I call this lion season, and because you don't really know what or who to believe this time of the year. A lot of smoke screens, a lot of people with agendas putting things out there for their own gain and benefit. So it's hard to decipher what's true and what's not. I guess we're about 48 hours away from finding all of that out, roughly.
Cavante?
But so about a week ago,
Mhm.
how
How
did
did it go?
Everything was all good just a week ago.
it was all good. So maybe your first two picks.
Mhm.
How did you see at least the first two picks unfolding? How did you see the first two picks? Well, how did you see the quarterbacks falling in general?
You talking about in the draft in general?
Yeah.
So initially, when the trade was made, when the Bears traded with the Panthers, everyone assumed, and I'm included in this, it was C.J. Stroud that they were going up to go get. I've all along said that Bryce Young's the best quarterback in this draft class, but I thought the size and the history that the Panthers' new head coach Frank Reich had with bigger, stronger, more physically imposing quarterbacks, Carson Wentz, Andrew Luck, et cetera, et cetera. That was going to be where they were going to go. But, as time passed, I think they did the work and they realized that Bryce Young is the best quarterback in this draft class. What has been really interesting is this ridiculous fall. What seems like a fall. I still don't know if it's going to happen or not. CJ Stroud, from, presumably being the number one overall pick to all of a sudden Peter King comes out today and says, which I don't believe, but this guy might not go in the top 7 because everyone just assumed none of these quarterbacks are going to slide past 7 at the Raiders. Jimmy Garoppolo signed a deal with the Raiders, but it's essentially a deal that the Raiders can get out of after 1 year. So there's an exit ramp, and everybody just assumed, well, the Raiders will draft their heir pair. Jimmy hasn't stayed healthy, the last 3 or 4 seasons anyway. And so they'll be grooming the guy that's going to ultimately be the, starting quarterback in the franchise guy. But now there was a report that the Raiders aren't interested in any of these quarterbacks and that they just want a cornerback at 7. So it's, like I said, just so crazy. I think ultimately where there's smoke, there's fire with this Texans team, particularly. I don't buy that CJ Stroud's gonna, fall, past Indy. I still think that the Colts are sending out all kinds of smoke screens. I think they're out here telling people that I read an article where the Colts want someone to come up to take CJ Stroud so that they can take Will Levis, which is just stupid to me because if you want Will Levis and CJ Stroud is on the board, you just take Will Levis. If you believe in him that much, you just take him. Why do you need another team to come up and take CJ Stroud? Because what that says to me is they don't want to have to explain to their fan base that we took a guy that we got to watch his career at Ohio State, right up the street in Columbus from Indy, and we don't think he's better than Will Levis, which nothing that you've watched says that Will Levis is better than CJ Stroud. So that's a hard thing to sell to your fan base. But I think what they're ultimately doing is trying to convince people that Will Levis is the prospect you want so that they can get CJ Stroud to fall into their lap. So ultimately, Tennessee can come all the way from 11 and get a quarterback. They're definitely not sold on Ryan Tannehill, but it's a good situation that they're in, similar to the Minnesota Vikings, where you've got a guy already who's going to start this year that you feel confident, a veteran that you can win football games with. Don't have to play a guy like Hendon Hooker, for instance. Let him rest. He's coming off of a ACL. Let him go ahead, heal up. And so there are so many different teams that make this so interesting. I've already said that the AFC South is by far and away the division that's driving this draft because you've got the Titans looking for a quarterback. The Texans are sitting there at 2 with the keys to really deciding this whole thing. If they just take CJ Stroud, I think everything falls into place. They don't. They take a defender. Now Arizona's pick becomes a hot spot. There's no way somebody's not trading up to 3. I thought that was going to be the case regardless if the Texans took a quarterback or not. Now, assuming that they take Will Anderson or Tyree Wilson or one of those edge rushers at 2, somebody's coming up for a quarterback at 3. There's no way Arizona's going to stay there and make a selection. So the Colts are definitely taking a quarterback, right? Yep. And so the assumption, I still think, when it's all said and done, that we get either 3 quarterbacks, 1, 2, 3, or 3 quarterbacks in the first 4 picks. I just, it's hard for me to buy that, one's going to be a quarterback and it's going to be Bryce Young. It's hard for me to believe that 3 and 4 aren't also quarterbacks. That doesn't make any sense to me. So if 2's not a quarterback, that's fine. 3 and 4 are definitely a quarterback in my estimation. And I still believe the Raiders take a quarterback at 7. If somehow miraculously CJ Stroud, there's really a situation where he falls and the Raiders are like, nah, we good. We're just going to take a corner. there's no way he gets past the Falcons at 8. Absolutely zero chance that the Falcons say, "Nah, we good. We gonna roll with Desmond Ritter. We're
Oh,
fine."
right. Like that doesn't even sound right coming through your lips. Like, nah,
Right.
we good. We got Desmond Ritter. No, that doesn't
Yeah.
even sound.
Fact.
So if he goes past 7 and 8,
Mhm.
I think there's something we missing. Like C.A. Stroud got some skeletons in the closet or something. Like
Something has
this,
got to be wrong. I agree with you.
this whole, I think there's this whole deal with this this new test that's going, well, not new, but is relatively new, that they're giving draft prospects when they're basically they're testing their timing and how well they can react to this. Now I'm hearing CJ Stroud did not do well at that, but are they putting that much into this test for him to fall past 7?
I don't know if that might be a part of, because all of this is like pieces to the puzzle, right? So maybe that's a piece to the puzzle. My understanding of this situation, or at least how I interpret it, and I talked about this on my podcast, was I feel like he's being punished. And look, we're humans. This is what we do. He's being punished, one, because of the helmet. They tell you in the scouting community, don't scout the helmet, scout the player. But it's increasingly hard to do when you look at the failed quarterbacks that have come from the Ohio State program. Now, Justin Fields is right now being given an opportunity in Chicago, and they finally given him some talent. So we'll see what he does now that he's got an actual supporting cast in Chicago. But outside of, Justin Fields, you go all the way back to the Jim Tressel days. There's been no successful Ohio State quarterbacks. God rest his soul, Dwayne Haskins, um, Cardale Jones. I mean, we can keep going. Barrett, CJ Barrett, or was it JT Barrett? I mean, we go on and on and on with these dudes, man. Troy Smith. There's so many of them. They just don't work out in the NFL. So I think there's that. But I think the bigger thing is teams are looking at Mac Jones and they're saying Mac Jones had a really solid rookie campaign in New England. And then in year 2, when he wasn't surrounded by as much talent, he struggled, and he struggled mightily. And there's this conversation, this narrative that Ohio State quarterbacks perform well in college because they're surrounded by all of these NFL first-round talents. And we've seen the receivers that come out in Ohio State almost every year. There's another first, it's like a factory, And so a lot of people said that, Mac Jones struggled because now he wasn't surrounded by the likes of, Jerry Jeudy and, all of these receivers that were at, Devontae Smith and Jalen Waddle. And I mean, we could run down the list of all these guys that first or second round picks coming out of Alabama, handing the ball off to Najee Harris, another first round pick. And so
Williams, and he had great offensive linemen,
there was times where he didn't even get touched in games.
Yeah.
He would stand back there, build a house, deliver the football wherever he wanted. And so I think a lot of people are projecting that onto CJ Stroud, saying, look at all the talent that he's been surrounded with. Last year, you had 2 first-round Ohio State wide receivers in Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson, right? Yep. This year, Jackson Smith and Jigba probably going to be a first-round pick more likely than not. If not, definitely a second-round pick. And so you look at the talent that he's been surrounded by. Marvin Harrison Jr. will be a top 5 pick next year.
Top 5. Yep.
Top 5 pick next year, right? So, I mean, and then when you look at his body of work, when those guys weren't available, look at the first half of the Georgia game in the playoffs. Marvin Harrison, they had no answer for him. They were already without Jackson Smith and Jigba. Harrison goes down, and the offense goes dormant. Now, to his credit, he took them on a drive that should have resulted in them winning the game. And if they win that game, I think it changes the narrative. But unfortunately, his kicker missed, and they lost that game. And so that narrative still exists. He struggled against Notre Dame in the first game of the season, where the run game and the defense really carried them because he did not play well. Jackson Smith and Jigba got hurt in that game. Harrison was a non-factor. And you could see he struggles when everything around him isn't perfect. Whereas a guy like Bryce Young, for instance, you had games where Mechie went down in the SEC championship game, still filleted the best defense in the nation that year, which was Georgia in the SEC championship, threw for over 400 yards, won that game. They go to the national championship game, no Mechie. They're down there, probably his most reliable receiver, and Jamison Williams is killing them in the first quarter, and then he tears his ACL.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And Bryce Young still keeps them in that game with no receivers. I remember a pass very vividly in that game, a corner route that he threw to a freshman receiver. It hit him right in his hands, and he dropped it. And it would have put him down inside the 5-yard line. They probably would have scored a touchdown on that drive. And it's those types of performances. Even though they didn't win that game, he battled with not a lot around him. The Texas game on the road is my favorite because it was a struggle, man. And they were in a hostile environment. Yep. And somehow, with the game on the line, Bryce Young took them down the field, got them in the field goal range, and they won a game that they had no business winning. And so you can see how he performs with less talent around him because really what Alabama has right now, they don't have any dominant receivers. I don't think there's a first round or maybe even a second round receiver on that squad right now. Now that could change this year with an incoming class and you get some transfers, the portal is open, all that good stuff. But his best receiver was Jahmyr Gibbs, the running back. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, I think that's what Carolina saw. And I think conversely, that's what everybody's seeing with CJ Stroud, is that maybe if you take away that supporting cast, he's not as good as he may appear. And it's crazy because his pro day and his combine performances were among the best I've ever seen. And they were the cleanest we've ever seen. And nobody seems to care about any of that stuff. And we'll see what ultimately happens. I still find it hard to believe that he slides. That's just me.
Well,
somebody's gonna come and get him.
Well, speaking of, I want to get another Commanders fan, and I want to get his opinion on C.J. Stroud and in the draft as well. Coming to the stage, ladies and gentlemen, Darius Brock.
Yo, hey,
what's up?
What's going on, buddy?
Not much. How y'all?
Hey, man, we can't talk Commanders without you, man.
Oh man, I don't even. Well, let's save that.
But what were your opinions about what Lou just said, man?
I love it. My whole look at the draft process is, I do not care about numbers. C.J. Stroud is still the second best quarterback to be taken, and here's why. On my reasoning, yes, you can take away the Jackson Smith and Jigba's, the O line. He still found ways to win games. Whether the only knock on him that I didn't like and other people didn't like is he didn't use his legs enough. Now, obviously, that changes, and who knows what that's going to happen in the NFL. But you also measure his QBR is high and his win-loss percentage is pretty damn high. The other quarterbacks on that back end aren't as high in the win-loss column. Also, their QBR isn't as high. Will Levis, big arm. Anthony Richardson, freak athlete. What did they look like when they played? Interceptions, fumbles, inconsistency. Can flash, can make those plays, but when you need them to do them day in and day out, when your best player isn't there. C.J. Stroud's best player was not there in Jackson Smith and Jigba and still got something done. So who is those other two guys when you look at the tape? And people want to look at this year and, oh, Will Levis had injuries. Anthony Richardson, that Florida team is going through a turnover. It doesn't matter. In 2 years, out of all these quarterbacks, these four, and we're forgetting Hendon Hooker at 5, who I think can jump these two, not in terms of where they get drafted, but later on. But when you look at these four, only 2 have put out 2 solid years where they performed. And that's C.J. Stroud, Bryce Young. I do not care how big your arm is if you cannot be accurate. I do not care how good your legs are if you cannot throw the ball when we need you to. I do not care about any of that if you cannot, in a 5-minute offense, give me a solid, clean drive without having to reset with a 2nd and 12 because you got sacked, or a interception because you thought the X receiver was coming up on a post, but you should have threw the in route, the dig coming underneath. That does not matter. 2 years of tape that we've seen from all 4 guys, and technically only 2 of them have put together 2 years of tape. Both of the other 2 have only put together 1.5. What makes those 2 solid? I'm taking Hendon Hooker over the both of them in the long run because he's actually improved from Virginia Tech to Tennessee. And everyone asks, if you are going to be a quarterback, quote unquote, in this NFL league, the mini NFL is what? The SEC. In 2 years under Tennessee, he not only improved his touchdowns, he's not improved, he cut down on interceptions, he has been a better decision maker, and he's also found ways to win more games. He didn't win that many games at Virginia Tech. He won that many games at Tennessee. Does that also say the talent around you? Yes, but that shows he got better. So for all these people who love the wow factor, show me something that can put together a drive safely and effectively to win me a game. Only 3 of those quarterbacks have done that for me.
I
That's
got a
just how you
question.
gotta look at it.
I got a question for both of y'all. Since we're in the draft and this is pretty much the Commanders' theme song right now. The show. I'm not gonna
play that music
I
for him.
thought he was about to do it.
You've been there, done that. But no, I'm just saying this is a Commanders show. You pick at 16. Do you trade back or do you stay at 16? And who would you guys like as far as a pick?
So
Who wanted first? Who wanted first?
I definitely wanted to talk to Lou because I saw you had an interesting pick. I can't remember what episode, but you was talking about Emmanuel Forbes. Do you still are you still holding?
Nah. So I put out a mock draft today, and the mistake I made, because normally I do my mock draft for the entire first round first, and then I do my Washington 7th-round mock. So it kind of gives me a feel of what other teams are doing around Washington, and then I can kind of formulate what I think is ultimately going to happen and who will still be on the board, because ultimately that's what's going to dictate what Washington does. I mean, we can sit here and talk till our face turns blue, but if 1 or 2 guys fall down the board that teams didn't expect, and Washington's sitting there at 16, they may very well be able to get out of 16 and trade back. The prevailing thought early in this process was that this was not a strong draft in terms of high-level talent. It may have depth throughout the draft, but people were having a hard time finding 30 prospects with first-round grades on them. So when you think of it from that perspective, a lot of people were saying there was about 15 prospects with true first-round grades. Obviously, you can't stop the draft at 15 and go to the 2nd round. So they're going to be players that may not have been first-round picks in other drafts that were a little bit stronger. But that said, I think Washington is in a position where they probably want to move back, but I don't know if ideally there will be a player or 2 there that makes people want to come up and take that pick off their hands. The thing that's going to benefit them will be if quarterbacks start to fall, right? But in saying that, I think it's twofold, because if quarterbacks start to fall, would Washington themselves be interested in one of them, right? That's something to ask yourself. If quarterbacks start to fall, are they going to fall far enough to where Washington becomes a factor? The other question is, what if quarterbacks go? What if in my mock draft, I had 5 quarterbacks going in the top 10 picks? Okay. So with that happening, you would assume, I call it spillage. You would assume that there would be some prospects that should be taken in the top 10 that, because the quarterback position got pushed up, some guys kind of slide down, and 16 now becomes a bit more of a hot spot. Maybe there's a corner, maybe there's an offensive lineman, maybe there's an edge rusher, or somebody that should have been gone already that's still there. That could happen, but realistically, I think Washington ultimately, if they end up trading back, it'll be later in the draft, maybe the 2nd round, maybe the 3rd round, because they have a compensatory 3rd. Maybe they trade out of the 3rd altogether, pick up more picks, that type of thing. I don't know if they can actually get out of 16. I think the pick ultimately comes down to three positions for Washington if they have to stay there and make a selection: the offensive line, corner, or edge rusher. And so I think those three positions, and I wouldn't rule out tight end. A lot of people have been mocking Washington a tight end. I just don't see them pulling the trigger on one in the first round. I wouldn't be shocked by it if they did, because something that I had to consider was Eric Bieniemy's his presence and what he did in Kansas City and what he was a part of. They had a big time tight end, and a lot of their offense ran through Travis Kelce. We don't have one of those players here in Washington. So maybe he would want a guy like that to help spearhead his offensive attack. So that's not something to rule out. But if I had to make a selection, if I had to pin down a guy, I think it's one of two players. I think it's either Deonte Banks out of Maryland, because I think Devontae Witherspoon will already be gone, and I think Christian Gonzalez will already be gone. And I actually think that JPJ will still be there. However, he doesn't fit the scheme that Washington deploys. He's more of a press man cover corner. We saw how that worked with William Jackson III. They need more of a guy that can play zone, can play off. He just isn't good off coverage wise. His footwork isn't good enough. His change of direction is choppy. That wouldn't be a good fit for them. He's gonna probably be better suited going somewhere where their modus, their play style is more of playing press man, right? So I think even though he's probably more talented than Deonte Banks, I think it's either Deonte Banks or Wright, the tackle from Tennessee. I think those are the two guys to really keep an eye on for Washington. I wouldn't rule out edge rusher. That was always a sneaky, first round selection for me, because obviously Chase has got a 5th-year option that they've got to make a decision on by May 1st, essentially. You can't keep both him and Montez Sweat. You look at the defensive end position in Washington, the depth is cool, but it's not earth-shattering, right? So I think that's something that even if they don't take a guy in the first round, I could see them taking one later down the line in the draft. It's a deep edge rusher draft class. So 16, I think, is either Banks or Wright out of Tennessee.
Okay,
Gary?
I agree on Wright. Wright definitely is one of the guys that I've pinned down. But on the opposite, I do go with Joey Porter Jr. because of his physicality. Now, I know his scheme, like he said, the scheme fit doesn't fully match up, but his size does. And because he's more of a longer, lengthier corner, he can be able to track the ball down at a faster rate, which gives him that extra added benefit to those small tweaks where you're like, okay, you get beat, but your size makes up for it. That extra hand, that stick out and go get it. I definitely do like Banks. I wouldn't be mad at that. But there's also a small chance where the corner that I love the most, I know Washington isn't going to trade back. And if they do, they must know something that no one does. And they must have a guy definitely in mind that they know they can get without having to compromise anything. But there could be a chance that Devin Witherspoon does fall. Again, corners are a dime a dozen, but you only get a chance to get a few great guys who fit the mold or idea of this culture that you're bringing in. Washington's culture is built on that front four, that front seven. So you don't necessarily need a exceptional corner. You just need a physical corner. So Witherspoon, if he falls in a dream world, dream scenario, that's what I would love. But Joey Porter Jr. would definitely be my consensus pick at 16. But I also, again, wouldn't be surprised if we go get ourselves a O lineman, a tackle, more so that we need on that left side.
What you think, Ravante?
I really love Devin Witherspoon. I think he does everything. He does everything well. He does everything right. And some, depending on who you talk to, have him actually higher than Gonzalez. But what I'm worried about is that they go 7-8. That's what I see happening. Them going Raiders, Falcons, and it continues. I do think Joey Porter is the next best corner, but when we talk about scheme is important. But we haven't had real physicality in a secondary since a
Chance.
while. It's been a while. It's been a long while. So I think Joey Porter, also being the son of a former defender, former football player, in Joey Porter, I think that's a much needed toughness that would help. That would help out secondary and Ron Rivera. But we'll see if Ron Rivera sticks to his MO, which most of the time he usually does, because I mean they called us the Washington Panthers since he's been there, right?
Facts.
So
It was the what was it? Commanders. That's what they were called. Commanders. The Commanders.
So I think Darnell Wright is an interesting pick there, but I'm all for offensive line help because I'm of the belief that I believe your best unit on your team should be the offensive line, because your offensive line is great. It's a good chance that you're doing pretty well in life, and that's something I can't say for the Commanders football team, Redskins, in quite some time. So yeah, hey Raj, which I got.
We want to thank everybody for checking in, definitely. But we want to ask y'all, what are y'all thoughts about the new offensive coordinator bringing Eric Bieniemy to Washington?
Personally, I love it. I like it because now you have a more modern nuance on football. You have a coach who's not still stuck in the ground and pound. Now, don't get me wrong, it works. While everybody's throwing the ball 12 yards downfield, we're going to run it for about 6. Still works, but every now and then you need something new. Eric Bieniemy is very creative enough in his schemes, and we saw him. Yes, Andy Reid was probably the caller of these plays, and yes, he was drawing most of those plays. But I'm pretty sure he was in the same boat with Eric Bieniemy, and they were spearheading it together. So I'm going to give him his props, and I think that new added base of what he knows and that nuance is going to change the offense overall. Because we've all done watched these games, and we done said, why are you running it on 3rd and 5 where you could easily throw a slant route because Terry has one-on-one coverage right here in this cover one spread. Like, we've seen it. But his idea was, we are bigger, stronger, tougher. Let's run it. So this will at least give them something where, hey, we can give you a look that says run because we'll have an overloaded box, which, unlike in Kansas City, was very spread out. But because of our size and how we move, we can do both. Kansas City was known for spreading out the field, 4 receiver sets, maybe a 5 receiver if you count Travis having a motion out. But we are different in terms of the Commanders. Our size shows we have a running back who can run downhill. We have a running back who can catch the ball. We got 3, possibly 4 solid receivers who can stretch the field no matter where they want. And we have 2 big tight ends. So we can go 2 tight end set with a fullback if we felt like it, move some guys around, and still go vertical. So I like it. I think he'll bring a nuance to the ground and pound game that we haven't seen before.
I think EB's addition was everything. I think most of the hope that fans have for the season, the players included. I mean, you've heard Ron Rivera talk numerous times. Just a week ago during the pre-draft presser, he said that the energy, one of the reporters asked a question surrounding the energy level and why it's so high this time of the year opposed to past years, and his simple answer was Eric Bieniemy. There's this life that he's brought to this team. There's a belief that he brings with him, having won a Super Bowl last year, having been to 5 consecutive AFC championships, having been to 3 Super Bowls in the last 5 years, having been a part of a winner, seeing what consistent great offense looks like and being a part of that. Listening to Andy Reid talk about some of the adjustments that were made, that the 2 touchdowns that they scored in the Super Bowl, that was Eric Bieniemy making an adjustment, saying, hey, this is what we saw on film. When they go in motion, they're passing it off. So if you fake like you're going in motion, they're going to pass it off. And now if you come back in reverse motion, you should be wide open. And that's what happened twice. So having Eric Bieniemy here, we don't really even know what Bieniemy is going to do. Like, we don't know his identity as a play caller, right? So we can't even say what kind of formations he's going to put on the field, what's his preferred method of attack. We don't even really truly know what we're getting ourselves into. We're just excited about the prospects of what this man brings to the table because he was a part of a winner. Even if he's coming over here and it's just strictly off of osmosis, in terms of how he's learned from Andy Reid, that's going to benefit Washington. So, one of the things Ron Rivera has continued to say all off season is we can do what the Chiefs do. We've got the personnel to do what the Chiefs do. He's not wrong. We don't have Patrick Mahomes, right? But we've got Terry McLaurin. We've got Curtis Samuel. We've got Jahan Dotson. We got 2 running backs that we truly believe in. We're constantly adding talent. I think De'Ami Brown will be better suited for this particular style of offense because now we're moving to a West Coast offense. And so I think this is an interesting dynamic that he brings to the table, one that everybody's excited about. And I think more so than anything else, it's addition by subtraction. Scott Turner, while he wasn't the worst coordinator in football, his situational awareness, and this was the thing I would always complain about, was absolutely horrid. And so just bringing in a guy that understands his players, that's the thing I always like to figure out is, do you understand the strengths and weaknesses of your players? We got Terry McLaurin, who wins probably 90% of the time on slants. We might have thrown him 7 slants all of last season. You got a hammer of a running back in Brian Robinson Jr., and yet it's 3rd and 4th and 1, and he's not even in the game. These are the things that are baffling, right? You got this 6'6" tight end and Logan Thomas, who, was leading your team in touchdown receptions in 2020 when he was healthy, and even a problem in 2021 before he got injured, and he gets no red zone targets. We hear about Cole Turner and him leading the nation with 10 touchdown grabs at Nevada his final year there, and we're all excited about him. He doesn't get but 1 back shoulder fade in the red zone the entire season. Make it make sense. And so Eric Bieniemy has preached, we're going to put our guys in the best positions to succeed. It's music to my ears, but I still need to see action. I'm about that action, boss. But I love to hear what he's saying because it makes so much sense with a lot of the things that didn't make sense a year ago.
Man. I think I echo both of you brothers. I haven't been this excited for this Washington team, this Washington team, club, football, whatever we've been called over the past, whatever, in quite some time, because it's something different. Mm-hmm. Ron Rivera has been very strict, and it could be because of his military background, on how he does things. Mm-hmm. Whether, and like you said, they call us the Panthers. You know what I'm saying? Like pretty much every move he made went back to something dealing with Carolina. Mm-hmm. And it's like, yo, if you get another offensive lineman from Carolina, oh my gosh, I got to make a trip. You know what I'm saying? But it's something different. Mm-hmm. And this brother Eric Bieniemy is coming from a winning culture, which is what we're trying to turn this into, and it's going to take a while. And there's a lot of other factors. We have at least one more we're going to get into before we let y'all go. But I think this is one that we've dealt with accordingly, and it means something different. It means something. It feels good, and he can bring what he learned. Because one thing, whether you want to give Andy Reid all the credit or what have you from Kansas City, Eric Bieniemy learned a thing or two. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? I refuse to believe he's learned nothing. Like, we could benefit a lot from him, especially because the Kansas City Chiefs have been in several situations that the Commanders haven't dreamed of. Right. And he can put that on display and put people in spots and maybe even give us a whole new outlook on playing football, which is what we're excited about, and which is why I'm excited. Because, and on top of that, offensively, we were at the bottom. It's nothing but up from here.
Mhm.
So, I'm very, very, very excited with Airbnb edition. But y'all remember the 99 2000s was a great year. Shout out to Juvenile.
Yeah.
Great, right? In that very same year, we had a brother by the name of Daniel Snyder. Bought the Washington Redskins at the time. About 700 million, something like that. Something.
That's it.
Yeah. About 700 mil, 780, something like that. Lot of money in the late 90s, early 2000s. And it seems like there's been a dark cloud over this.
Not seen. It was a dark cloud over this franchise.
Okay, so it's real. Okay, cool.
Yeah, that thing was there.
So there's definitely been a dark cloud over this organization ever since then. You want to talk about optimism and excitement? I don't know which one I'm more excited about. Daniel Snyder leaving or Airbnb? I'm not sure. But
I know which one it is.
Both.
I know which one it is.
So to both of you guys, and I've been listen to all these brothers. I've been on it. I've been talking about it year in and year out when we do this podcast. When I get my opportunity, because these brothers are all Ravens fans, so we don't have the same problems. Okay.
Right.
Well, we do have some issues, not the same problem.
We have some issues. Yes.
Not the same
y'all
problem.
problems ain't our problems. They don't look the same.
And so to my fellow Commander brothers, how are y'all feeling when it finally came out? Daniel Snyder is about to sell the team. Now, granted, we have to reserve ourselves because it hasn't happened yet. It hasn't happened yet. We have to be in reserve, but I can't tell you, sometimes it's hard to contain.
I know for a fact that I didn't think this day would come. So to sit here, and when I first heard about Bank of America being hired to inquire about, different bidders potentially being interested in kind of putting a dossier together to present to potential bidders, I was like, am I dreaming? Do I need to pinch myself? Christopher Williams alert. If I'm dreaming, just let me sleep. Don't wake me up till this dream is complete. You know what I'm saying? So I had to, kind of like calm down, because to your point, the black cloud has existed. And no matter how good we feel about the team, it doesn't matter. The football gods will not allow us to be successful as long as Daniel Snyder owns this team. I'm a big believer in karma, and he's just not a good human being. And so it always struck me as just frustrating that no matter what we did, 2012 couldn't have been a more magical season. It could not have ended more disastrous. That's not by accident. Our hopes got up. We thought we had us a franchise quarterback for the next decade. And then just like that, within 2 years, he was pretty much damaged goods and no longer viewed in the same light. How quickly that happened. I'm still waiting on the 30 for 30 for that. Right. So in my mind, I'm still like, because he's done so much damage, to my psyche as a fan.
Yes.
I keep telling people I just need him to be gone first before, because I told everybody, we dancing in the streets. Shake it, Warrior. We dancing when this man finally signs this thing over. It's a party, right? That's our Super Bowl. Before this offseason got underway, I made it abundantly clear to anyone that would listen, this is the biggest offseason in franchise history. And that sounds crazy for older fans who were fans of this team when we were the New England Patriots, right? We were the gold standard in the NFL. You know, there were about 3 or 4 franchises, particularly in the NFC in the 80s, the Bears, the 49ers, Washington, that, you know, dominated the 80s into the 90s. And we were the gold standard, right? We won 3 Super Bowls in 9 years with 3 different quarterbacks, right? Like, it didn't matter who was playing. We found a way to win on the road, at home. It didn't matter. And to see how far we had fallen as a franchise and where we had ended up, it was just amazing to me to see how far this team and this franchise had fallen. So you said that you don't know which one to be more excited. It's not even close, right? Eric Bieniemy is cool, and he's not even a head coach. He's the offensive coordinator, right? It'd be even more exciting if EB was the head coach and you're like, man, you want to get behind this brother, but he's the offensive coordinator. It wouldn't even matter if he was the head coach. It's Daniel Snyder. You take 200 steps and you get to the next biggest topic of the offseason, right? Him selling the franchise is by far and away the biggest thing that has happened to this franchise. Again, I equate it to winning the Super Bowl. He sells this team, it feels like we just won, right? Because it feels like we're getting our team back. Feel like he took our team from us and held it hostage for the last 23 years. And I've just been like, bro, can I just get my squad back, please? And so when he finally sells, this has been the most successful offseason ever.
Forever.
Ever. Period.
And I feel you on that as a Ravens fan. I've been seeing Cravante been crying for maybe the last 15 years, 15, 20 years. I know him for the last 10 years, so I know he's been crying in 10 years, but I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
He had every reason to.
Yeah, he had every reason to. And I'm as a Ravens fan, I'm not gonna lie to you. The Eric Bieniemy hire, I wanted him so badly as coordinator for the Ravens. I was like, we got to go get Eric Bieniemy. Yeah. But I'm not mad though, because y'all deserve to have Eric Bieniemy, and I think he would definitely fit in to the Commanders' offense as well. I think Sam Howell, I think he's going to be good. I do too. I think he's going to be really good. I seen him up close and personal that last preseason game when we played him here in Baltimore. And I was like, this guy might be really good. And then of course the season-ending game between y'all and the Cowboys. I thought that was a good showing, a good showing for him as well. So I think y'all going to be phenomenal, man. Magic Johnson and the Harris group buying the Commanders. Hopefully that does go through with y'all. I think it's going to really, really, really bring the light out as far as the Commanders fans.
So speaking of the light, Rod, go ahead and give him that smile. Give him the Magic Johnson smile. But I do want to chime in because you did say Eric Bieniemy is not the head coach, but the offensive coordinator. So do you think that this hire was to possibly give him that chance to be a head coach finally?
Absolutely. Ron Rivera sees a lot of himself in Eric Bieniemy because Ron Rivera is a minority, and Ron had to go on 7 different interviews himself before he finally got a head coaching job. So he knows what Eric Bieniemy has gone through, and Ron saw a fellow minority struggling, not getting an opportunity, and he decided to extend a life raft essentially and say, hey, look, I'm going to give you the opportunity here. Look, it's beneficial. It's really mutually beneficial for both because Ron was on the way out himself, right? And he's not out of the woods yet, obviously. But the thing that was holding Ron and his team back is offense, right? So my thing last year was because I talked about us. I thought we could win 11 games last year. My prediction was 12, but I thought 11 because I looked at the schedule and I looked at how the schedule, not just the teams we were playing, because we knew the teams we were playing. And we said, look at those 2 divisions. Like you're playing the NFC North and the AFC South. It's 2 of the worst divisions in football. Like you got to eat and eat good off of those 2 divisions. And then I said, Also, we're playing I think it was the second to last place schedule, a third place schedule, or whatever. So you got to take advantage of that. But also, the schedule makers say, "Hey, we're gonna bless you. All right, if you can't do anything with this, I can't help you." They said we're gonna give you Jacksonville and Detroit to start off your first two games. Hey, find a way, right? And then they said, we're not going to give you no real tough stretches of football where you got 3 out of 4 on the road or anything. It's home away, home away. It literally was that way until we got to week 10 with the Eagles. We played back-to-back road games against the Eagles and the Texans. Outside of that, we didn't have a single back-to-back road situation all year. So the schedule was set up for success as well. And unfortunately, we just weren't able to take advantage. But it was because of the offense, the inability to score. You can't be trying to win games 17-15. This is not 1993, right? You got to find a way to score points. The NFL is set up, it is designed, and it rewards teams that can score points. Defense is great, and defense wins championships. Still, you got to be able to get a stop. Ask the Philadelphia Eagles, right, in the Super Bowl. Couldn't get a stop when they needed it, right? You got to be able to play some semblance of defense, but you got to be able to score, right? And averaging 18 points a game, who you beating doing that, right? So in my mind, if that number just goes to say 24.2 points per game, with the defense that if you continue to play the defense you've been playing, you're going to win 9, 10, 11 games. And so with the offensive weapons that I feel like we have, and I think they're going to add some more via the draft, I think some of the improvements that they've made on the offensive line, and I too, like you, believe in Sam Howell. I've already started a campaign, new Howell order, right? So I already feel like Sam Howell is going to finally, once and for all, steady the quarterback position for the Washington Commanders and give us a fighting chance. So I really, really, truly feel like Ron gave Eric this opportunity to showcase his talents, to help him get a head coaching job, but for Ron, more importantly, to save his, right? Because again, if Ron doesn't win this year, new ownership is coming in, the likelihood is he's going to get fired. He's been through this before. Ron was there when Jerry Richardson sold the Carolina Panthers, and David Tepper came in and he gave Ron another year, and we beat them. Remember, it was the Darius Geis game on the road where Adrian Peterson and Darius Geis both went off, and we beat the Panthers, and he got fired the next day. And so he didn't even make it through that first full season after new ownership took over. So he knows that it's volatile, right? You come in here, and it's not unlike a new GM coming in, right? When you get a new GM that comes in, generally he wants to put his thumbprint on the roster. A lot of these dudes I didn't sign off on, I don't believe in. So what I want to do is I want to clean house, bring my guys in here, make space for my draft picks so I can start to, get the guys in here that I believe in. It's not that different from a program where you've got, a college coach coming in and there's a bunch of players there that he didn't recruit. And maybe those are really good players and the other coach just didn't get the most out of them. I've seen it work that way where you win initially when you first come on board, then you start recruiting and then you get guys that aren't as good and you start losing. Or it could be vice versa. You got not as much talent. You're a master recruiter, and now it's just taking a while for you to get all your guys in there. Whatever the case may be, Eric Bieniemy is coming into a situation where there's talent, and I think he can win. And if he can get this offense where it needs to be, it'll be mutually beneficial for him. He can get a head coaching job, and Ron Rivera can keep his, at least for the, foreseeable future in Washington.
Now, do you think that Eric Bieniemy could possibly take Ron Rivera's job, or do you think he goes elsewhere?
It could happen. There is a path to that. It's highly unlikely, I think, but it's a similar situation in Dallas right now, where Mike McCarthy is the head coach. And a lot of people were ready to, they had his head on a stick, pitchforks and torches were out. And it was like, yo, Dan Quinn is sitting right here. He's probably the reason the Cowboys are even good right now, because before he got there, their defense was one of the worst in football, historically bad in 2020. Right.
Yeah.
He comes in 2021, and just like that, Dallas defense immediately improves. And now they're one of the better defensive units in football. And a lot of that credit needs to go to Dan Quinn. And so a lot of people are saying, hey, there's your man right there. but teams are hesitant to make that move. And so I think if new ownership comes in here, the only way EB is promoted from and I think Ron did this intentionally. If Ron's kind of setting it up like a vice president, right? Like, look, if somebody assassinates me, you taking over, right? I'm gonna make sure I put you behind me, so you are the one that is now in charge. He made Eric Bieniemy the assistant head coach. That's a big title because if Ron gets canned, more likely than not, EV steps into that role, and if he's able to showcase his abilities in let's say a 4-game stretch at the end of the season, maybe they do promote. But my bigger picture and point is if the offense is dynamic, let's say Washington yardage wise is 6th in the league, in points per game they're 11th in the league, which would be a drastic change from 31st in the league where we were this past year, right? Let's say you're 11th in the league, so top third of the league, and you're 6th in yards, total yards, offensive wise, and the defense is just awful. And we're scoring 36 and we're losing 38-36. We score 34, we lose 37-34, right? Like offensively, we're doing all we can, and the defense just isn't good enough. And maybe there's a blunder or two in there by Ron, late game situations, doesn't know when to call a timeout, throws a challenge flag when he shouldn't, et cetera, et cetera. I could see a situation there where they say, you know what? You're the problem. This guy's doing a phenomenal job. Let's give him an opportunity. But barring something like that, I think ultimately, if new management comes in, when new ownership comes in, I'm speaking that into existence right now. Right. When new management comes in, if Ron doesn't get it done, I think it might just be a total, cleaning of house and them starting anew. But I wouldn't rule out Eric Bieniemy. I'd put it at like a 25% chance that he could be retained as the head coach here.
And then let me also follow up with this other question. We've talked about the stadium a lot on this show. Do you think that a new stadium is underway, and the placement that we've talked about, particularly Cravante has said, is that it needs to be where the old RFK Stadium is right now? Do you think that that's a viable place, or do you view the stadium elsewhere for you guys once new management does come in?
So the first order of business, people have asked me, what do you want the ownership to do? What do you want the first thing for them to do? I said ownership. I want a new stadium. That's like, a lot of people say, hey, go get Lamar. No. I want a new stadium, right? That is, I want a new stadium. FedEx is a dump, and it's always been a dump, and it's our dump now. I respect our house. Take your shoes off, wipe your feet when you step in my house, but it's a dump, right? And so they need a new stadium, and as much as, and Cavante's right, it should be in downtown DC where the old RFK site is. That's where it belongs. The problem is the people, the constituents that live there, the people that occupy, they do not want a stadium there at all. And that's what's the most important is they're not going to allow a stadium to be built where they live. It's already a ton of traffic there. They don't want more. It's the city has changed. When everything surrounded
DC has changed a lot.
Oh man, it's a melting pot, obviously, right?
Yeah.
But when this team was at its peak in the 80s, everything around the area centered around the Redskins. Like they were the heartbeat and the pulse of the DMV area. And so it was nothing to get a stadium built there then, right? But now times have changed, people have changed, and I don't see the stadium being built in DC. I think it's either where it is now in Landover, Maryland. Thank you. Or I think it's going to be in Virginia, because I just don't see DC having enough support to have it built where it probably should be. So
just because I just think about like the Nationals being there, of
Mm-hmm.
course, the Wizards. It would be great to have the stadium
Mm-hmm.
in DC, but you're
Yep.
right with the traffic, and then DC turning from chocolate city to
Yeah.
white chocolate city. I
Yeah.
just don't.
That's definitely
I
not
just
what it
don't
used to
know.
be.
White chocolate city.
Hey, look, hey, Southeast DC ain't what it used to be,
No,
even probably
not
10 years
at
ago.
all.
Yeah. Oh gosh, that's yeah. DC's definitely changed from when I was growing up to now, vastly changed. They're all on the up and ups,
Yeah.
but I'm not sure if it's happened now, but I remember them talking about making an Amazon headquarters
Mhm.
in DC. I'm not sure if it's happened yet, but that made me think, why Dan Snyder don't like Bezos, yo? Why Bezos can't get in on the bid, man? What's up?
I mean, it's a lot. First of all, Dan Snyder suffers from little man syndrome, right? Probably, my
Yeah.
guess is because psychology was one of my majors in college, so I'd guess. I don't know this for sure. I can't confirm nor deny this, but my guess is he was probably bullied as a kid, right? Or he was one of the kids that did the bullying. And either way, um, he has a complex. And it's amazing. So one of the things right now that is being discussed in the negotiations is that the NFL wants to make it so that Dan Snyder cannot go after people who have testified against him. Like they want that to be a part of the deal that he signs to get his money. You cannot seek, prosecution against those who have testified against, because he's petty, right? Again,
Yeah.
he's not a
Yeah.
nice human being, right?
Big petty.
So in saying that, Bezos owns the Washington Post, right? The
Mhm.
Post has been writing as many articles regarding the toxic culture that has existed in Ashburn as a newspaper can write, right? Like it was one hit piece after another, right? It's part of the reason he's on the outs. They've
Yeah.
exposed so much of what was going on there. They had to fire people. They had to totally change the culture. Jason Wright is here because of it. They tried to diversify. They hired the first black team president. They hired a Hispanic woman in the front office, the first team to ever do that. They hired a female coach at running back in Jennifer King. They got the first female head of the social media department or the social marketing department in Julie Donaldson. And so all of this stuff was spawned because of all of the things that have gone on. And the Washington Post was really a huge part of that. And Bezos owns it, right? So he feels some type of way about that. So I think it's some of that. And then, he probably made it so that it was a bunch of hoops and things. But trust me, if people that are wealthy for a reason. They don't just spend just because. So we all sit here and Bezos, it flip flops back and forth between him being the richest man in the world and then second richest. Like, dude is, if he wanted to just drop 7 billion and say, here, take it, he could and buy the franchise. But Bezos is rich because he doesn't spend more than a penny on anything that he needs to purchase. You know what I'm saying? Like he's not looking to spend 7 billion when the highest bid is $6.05 billion. So in his mind, I'm not overbidding to get you to, give me the franchise. If this is a fair process, I want to put my bid in like everybody else, and I want to pay what I feel like is good value for the franchise. So the situation has been convoluted. It's still not over. I saw Steve Anthopoulos on a program earlier today saying that he's still in the bidding process and it's not over. And so it again, for as much as we want to just run with the Harris, Rails, and Johnson
Yeah.
group, it's not over yet. You know what I mean? So we'll see what happens. I really want that group to get it, but as long as Daniel Snyder's not the owner, I'm good. I'm good. I'm good.
That's it.
Thumbs up, Acrobante. Okay.
Hey man,
I got one last question for you. Is Chase Young gonna still be a Commander?
That is a great question. And it's one that I've played with back and forth because on one hand, you don't want to get caught in a situation where you can't re-sign him and Montez Sweat. It's just
right?
fiscally it's not possible. I mean, technically it is, but that's not a smart investment. You've invested on two guys on the interior of this defensive line. You're probably going to spend on one more of these dudes. Right now, it looks like Montez Sweat because he's been the most available and he's
Yep,
been the most consistent.
it
So
is.
with Young, he's a name, he's a face. The production hasn't been there even before he got hurt. 1.5 sacks, right? So he was struggling in that department. I know the dude is talented, but I don't know if he was properly coached. But at the end of the day, and I don't think we've done enough to put him or Montez Sweat in advantageous situations. I see so many defensive coordinators moving dudes around, standing them up, walking them up. Like all Sweat and Young do is switch sides. That's the most you'll see out of them, right? And
Mhm.
if Jack Del Rio is feeling freaky and allows it, they can stand up in a
Oh boy.
2-point stance. Woo!
Oh boy.
So
Let's
I
not get crazy.
mean,
Not get crazy.
don't get too crazy now, because Jack really wants them to put their hand in the dirt. So I think we could have done more to help these dudes be better. But at the end of the day, I'm watching TJ Watt get triple teamed and still get sacks. I'm watching Myles Garrett split double teams and get to the quarterback. I'm watching them reduce him inside as a 3 tech and watching him beat the guard like he stole something and get a sack. And I'm watching these dudes impact the game. And I'm just saying, why aren't our guys doing this? So in the case of Chase Young, Ron, it was interesting. Ron, when he is done with someone or he doesn't have a high opinion on somebody, he's very short when he speaks about them.
Mhm.
Case in point, William Jackson III. He was asked about William Jackson III, very short with William Jackson III. 2 days later, he was released, right? Or traded rather to the Steelers. Okay. We've seen that throughout his time here, where he's short with about a guy, and then next thing you know, that guy's gone, right? So they asked him about Chase Young in the 5th-year option, and he didn't say anything out of the ordinary. He was like, "Look, we don't have to make a decision until May 2nd, so we're not going to discuss it, pretty much." But if they were going to do it, he could have just said, probably going to do it. I mean, you don't have to show your hand, but I mean, you're not gaining an advantage by not telling us, right? Like,
Right.
there's no competitive advantage here being gained or lost or anything. So if you already know what you're going to do, you could just tell everybody what you're going to do. But it makes me feel like a trade on draft night could be looming, right? It
Mhm.
makes me feel like we could get to day 2 of the draft and Washington can move Chase Young and pick up a bevy of picks, and they could wash their hands clean of a dude that they have no intentions of signing. And he was a guy that, they had philosophical differences with him and Montez Sweat. Rivera publicly, chastised both of them for not playing within the scheme. So, didn't have a production, was freelancing, and then wasn't showing up for the off-season programs and things of that nature. He was big time in them. So I think that there's an understanding there between him and Chase Young, Ron Rivera and Chase Young, but at the same time, there may be a disconnect. And knowing that you can't afford Chase Young and Montez Sweat could prompt them to go ahead and be proactive and move him. It could also prompt them to pick up the 5th-year option, keep both of these dudes this year, see which one performs the best, and then be prepared to maybe offer the one that performs best a long-term deal. So it could go a lot of ways. if you put a gun to my head right now and say, hey, make a decision, is Chase Young here? I'd say, yeah, he's here.
Okay.
But right now, it's 50-50 for me. I would not be shocked if we got to Thursday night, day one of the draft, and Chase Young gets moved. I would not be shocked if we get to Friday night, day two of the draft. If it doesn't happen by day two, then I don't see him getting moved on day three of the draft, right? But
Right.
day one and two, I'm on Chase Young alert, and I would not be shocked if they moved him at the draft and washed their hands clean of the situation, drafted a new. This is what I said on my show last week. If they take an edge rusher at 16, Chase Young is as good as traded. That's my mindset. You take an edge rusher at 16, you're replacing him, and you're gonna move him. That's my thought process. And that could even extend to 47. You take a dude at 47, that could spell the end of Chase Young. We'll see what they decide to do. 16, though, that's the one I'm looking at. They take, a Miles Murphy or, one of those type of dudes, and I'm like, hey, Chase is on the outs.
Well, look, I know the Ravens, we definitely would love to have him as a pass rusher.
A lot of teams would.
But since you did talk about Chase Young, let me ask you, because I think about somebody coming in with that type of hype on the defensive end, Jadeveon Clowney. Would you say that he may be on that bus aspect just because of the injuries? Because both men have they've had injuries that kind of hurt their career. Or do you think that Chase Young's had a pretty good career thus far?
So I think a lot of people who don't think Chase Young will pan out have him on the Jadeveon Clowney trajectory, and a lot of things about the two of them are very similar, and that's the scary part. And so one of the things that frustrated me with Chase Young was throughout the process, I'm a big numbers guy when it comes to testing with edge rushers in particular, because there are three categories in particular that usually denote elite pass rusher. And then, one of the things you can't measure is shock and violence in your hands. Like Khalil Mack, for instance, some of the most explosive hands I've ever seen from a pass rusher. But if you go look at these three numbers, for the most part, with the best of the best in the NFL, the Von Millers, the Joey and the Nick Bosas, the TJ Watts, the Aaron Donalds, you name it. Any of these dudes that are destroying quarterbacks on a weekly basis, on a yearly basis, consistently, Myles Garrett, you go look at their numbers from the combine, their pro day, whatever. It's your 10-second split, shows explosiveness. It's your 3-cone, which should be somewhere. It shouldn't be any higher than 7.2. I've seen 7.3 is an acceptable one. I think the elites are in the 6-7 range, right? 6-7, 6-8, 6.9, right? And then your short shuttle, okay? Those 3 times, and your short shuttle shouldn't be any higher than 4.3, right? It really should be in the 4.2s or less. Some of these dudes 4.1, 4.08, something like that. Those 3 numbers are high indicators of explosiveness, the ability to change directions, turn the corner, flatten, and get to the quarterback. Chase Young didn't test on any of those because he probably knew he wasn't going to test well.
Wow.
And when you look at a guy like Aiden Hutchinson, for instance, last year, killed all 3 of those categories. He's going to be really good in this league, right? And so you see with some of these dudes, and the more I look at Chase Young, he doesn't have a rush plan. He doesn't use his hands well. I was so excited. So we played the New England Patriots, his second season, first preseason game. Cam Newton starting for the Patriots. And Chase Young uses a latch and snatch technique that he hadn't used. He used his hands to defeat the block, grabbed the tackle, snatched his way past him, propelled him to the quarterback, hit Cam Newton, ball came out. And I was like, oh my God. Him and Montez Sweat had talked about in training camp. They were going to set the record in the NFL for the most sacks combined for teammates.
Yeah.
And after that play, I was like, oh my God, he's about to have 16 and a half sacks this year. we did it. We got one, right? The man had a sack and a half through 10 weeks of football before he got injured, and he couldn't
God
get to the quarterback.
damn
And it was so frustrating because you don't see the explosion, and this is before the injury. You don't see move variance. He doesn't have a lot of moves in his tool belt. I've never seen. He spun on his first career sack in the NFL, and it was off of a chip against the Eagles. Right? I've never seen him spin again. I think that spin only happened because he got chipped, and he chipped off of that chipper. They tell you to chip off the chipper, and so he spun off of that chip block, and it got him to the quarterback. I've never seen him spin since then, right? It's either speed to the outside that's not working or a bull rush that isn't getting there either. So I haven't seen the crossover from him. I haven't seen him use, I call it the long arm of the law. Most people call it the pole vault, where you take one arm, stab it into the chest, and try to drive the tackle back. I haven't seen any of that stuff. So it worries me because I just don't know if he'll get to the level that we saw from him in his rookie season when he was defensive rookie of the year. And I'm not gonna lie to you, he's looking real Jadeveon Clowney-ish. But this is the year that I want to see him. I'm not giving up on Chase Young. I think there's still good football in there, and I think he can live up to his draft status. But and it's tough because he's coming off of his injury isn't a common injury. It's not like an ACL. We see people come back from those all the time. Nick Bosa came back from an ACL and had like 14 and a half sacks last year, right?
Mhm.
Whatever that number was, it was a ridiculous season. He just turned it, right? Yeah. Chase Young tore his ACL, LCL, and he ruptured his patella tendon. Like, that's not supposed to happen when you tear your ACL. Those two don't even go together. So there's a lot of stuff that went on in there, and you just don't know where he's going to be. And so I hate the fact that we're putting all this pressure on him. But like, bro, at this point, you got to do it now. You know what I'm saying? He's got a clean bill of health from all the doctors. They've looked at his knee. It's no excuses this year. So I've been, going to bat for him, but he gotta show and prove this year, man. Whether it's in a Washington Commanders uniform or not, I think it will be ultimately in a Commanders uniform.
Yeah. Well, my last question is pretty simple. Mm-hmm. Over under 8 wins, man. What you got, man? Over under 8 wins.
So I mean, it's hard to say right now because we sit here on, April 24th, and there's still a lot of things left to be done. The draft, the schedule will be released here probably in the next 2 weeks or so. And then you'll kind of get a sense for when do we play who and things of that nature. And it'll give you a better feel for what you think can happen. But my initial thoughts, knowing the divisions that we play this year, I think we can get to north of 8 wins. I feel like we've been knocking on the door, and I think we're ready to kick it down. Offensively, I think that we've got all the pieces we need to be dynamic and explosive. We hope we got the play caller now. And defensively, I worry about the defense more than I do the offense. I know that sounds crazy, but we're not playing.
Me too.
We're not playing, the Indianapolis Colts with Sam Ehlinger starting at quarterback. We're not playing the Marcus Mariota-led Atlanta Falcons this year on the schedule. We're playing real quarterbacks this year. And so it's Josh Allen, it's Tua, those are the types of quarterbacks we'll be facing this season.
Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers is now a member of the Jets, so we'll be getting a piece of that action. And just when you thought it was safe, right?
Yep.
So I feel like the defense is more of a worry for me because I didn't think they were dominant last year. I thought they were really good, but and I knew they would do this. I said our defense this year will look a lot like 2020's defense and a lot less like the 2021 defense that couldn't stop a nosebleed. And the reason I felt that way is because I'm like, the schedule that we're playing is a lot more like the 2020 schedule that we played, when we played a lot of bad quarterbacks like Nick Mullins and, Ryan Finley. Like, these are the quarterbacks that we saw in 2020, and we demolished them. We saw Ben DiNucci, for the Cowboys, and ate those types of quarterbacks alive, and we saw some of those dudes in 2022, right? And we took care of business against those teams. So there's not as many of those on the schedule this year. And so that worries me because we don't do anything exotic defensively. We just line up and try to out execute you. Aaron Rodgers, after we beat the Packers in week 7, he was asked on the Pat McAfee show, what did Washington do to have a successful day? And he literally smug, Aaron Rodgers, not real nonchalant. And he's like, nothing. They didn't do anything. Literally, they played basic cover 3, cover 4.
Wow.
They showed us nothing, and we just didn't execute. And he was right. I went back, watched the film. They dropped passes. He was inaccurate. They had miscommunications. We didn't do anything to affect them that game. They just didn't execute. And
so Jack got to go then, right?
You say what?
Jack got to go then, right?
He doesn't have to go necessarily. I do feel like we can upgrade the defensive coordinator position. I'd like to see a young guy in there that is a little bit more innovative and creative. I think Jack is kind of stuck in his ways. Like, he doesn't really blitz all that often. And I'm not saying that you should, when you don't trust your back end to be able to hold up, you shouldn't blitz. But at the same time, I feel like there are certain things that he can do. Like, I've already given you an example. Chase Young and Montez Sweat always rush off the edge. Like, they don't move. Like, it's not illegal to put them both on the same side of the defense, right? Or, against the offense, right? Like, they can rush next to each other. Like, total mind blow, right? Like, you're allowed to do that. You're allowed to create mismatches. You know what the Rams do for Aaron Donald is they will take 3 guys and shift them to one side of the center, right? Forcing one-on-one matchups on that side, so Aaron Donald gets a one-on-one against the guard. Unless you keep a running back in, you can't double team him with the tackle now, because the tackle has a guy right over top of him. Aaron Donald is now over top the guard, and then they take the other defensive tackle, slide him over the center. Now what are you going to do? Are you either going to use a running back, or are you going to have a tight end come in motion? But you can't double him now, right? You can create matchups for your dudes. We don't do anything like that. It's just, hey, go get him. You rush from your non-tech, go get him. And that's trash, man. But Jack's cool, but we can do better. I feel that way.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Dude, man. Yo, it has been an absolute pleasure, brother Louis T. Matter of fact, I tell you the first video I saw, it was a Super Friends.
Yeah.
So
Depending on which one it was, it might have been more successful than some of the others, because I'm always talking in those things, but rarely does the team back me up. So I always get left out to dry. But they did back me up this year once, so that felt good. When we lost to the Eagles, we were the worst team in the division at the time. Everybody else was winning. Clearly, everybody else made it to the playoffs but us. Mm-hmm. And we were heading into the game against the Bears. So we hadn't started winning yet. We just lost to the Titans. And I said to Lord Brunson, who's the Eagles representative on the panel, that y'all don't want to see us undefeated. Don't let me catch you out here in these streets undefeated on Monday Night Football. We coming to your house to do you. I mean, we were 2 and we were 1-4 when I said that. 1-4, 1-5, something like that. We were bad.
It was bad.
I think we were 1-5. We were 1-4 because we had the Bears in week 6 and we beat them. So we were 1-4 when I made that statement, and it didn't go well for me on the show that night. But ultimately, we caught them undefeated on a Monday night in their building. 11-point underdogs, went in there, beat them by 11 points, which was ironic. and that gave me some bragging rights that I still use to this day.
That's right. That's right.
As you should.
Yeah, look, I used some bragging rights because I remember I picked the game and I was the only person that picked Washington.
Yeah, you're a brave man because I didn't even
Me?
pick us to win. So,
I ain't pick me.
And look,
you're a
I will
brave
say,
man.
Karate, he's a true fan. He will not pick Washington if he feels like they.
Oh, I'm the same way. I am not going down on that sinking ship. If I don't think you're getting it done, hey, I always pick with my head, not my heart.
Well, before you get up out of here, Louis, tell us more about the Louis T Network and what can they find on this wonderful YouTube channel.
So I am a football fan through and through, NFL fan. I've been doing this since 2012. When I first started, there weren't many people doing what it is I do now. It's amazing to see how the platform has grown and how so many people are now talking NFL. And it's fun to see. It's fun to see the growth and the the evolution of YouTube and content creators like yourself that are out here grinding and trying to make a way. So I applaud all of y'all for that. And on my channel, like I said, I'm an NFL fan, so I'm live after every primetime game, Thursday, Sunday, Monday. I'm live after every Commanders game. Directly after that, I cover every single team in the NFL, so I'm knowledgeable enough to be dangerous. I'm not as versed as I used to be because I used to like cover every team like I was about to work for a major network, and that's when I had more time on my hands. I don't, and I realized that it doesn't really benefit me, right, to do all of that work, not like it used to. It's a different game now, right? So yeah, work smarter, not harder. But I could talk to you about the Ravens. I could talk to you about the Steelers. I could talk to you about the Jaguars. Talk to you about the Giants. Talk to you about any team in the league. And so I always say I cover all 32 teams like a blanket in the NFL. And so gonna be having a draft party this coming Thursday and Friday, first 2 days of the draft. I have a podcast that usually 3 episodes a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but it varies sometimes with the podcast, but you're going to get podcast episodes every single week. Talk about the NFL, obviously, all the teams, whatever the hot topics are, we discuss all of those. So I got a ton of content, man. Go check out the channel, Louis T Network on YouTube. I'm on Twitter at Louis T Network. I'm on IG, Louis T Network _. And you'll find mountains and mountains and mountains of content on YouTube in particular. I mean, like I said, I've been doing this for over a decade now, so it's all there, man. It's a vault full of stuff. Me being wrong, me being right. I'll always tell people I'll be the first to admit when I'm wrong, but if I'm right, you're gonna know I'm right because I'm gonna tell you I'm right. So yeah, it's all there, man. But this is my passion, man. This is what I love to do. So love talking ball.
Man, it was a pleasure having you, bro.
Yes,
I appreciate y'all having me.
I can't wait till you come back, man.
Yeah, no doubt. Y'all know how to get at me, man. For sure.
Word. Appreciate you, man. I'll be watching.
Hey, appreciate you, man. No doubt. Best of luck to y'all, your Ravens, man. All of y'all. Best of luck. Hey, hang in there, Cavante, man. Better days are coming, bro. It's right on the horizon, man. We on the cusp, bro. Hang in there.
I'm there, baby.
Look, it's gonna make it all worthwhile, man. You're gonna realize, man, all that struggle, all that strife, all that pain, heartbreak, all that good stuff. It was worth it.
We'll look back and laugh.
That's right. That's right.
Absolutely. But thanks, man. Thanks, good brother.
No doubt, man. Y'all take it easy.
Hey, wait a minute. Raj.
What's up?
Before Louis T leaves.
No.
Can we take him out with the song, man?
Can we gotta take him out with the song real quick?
Yeah, we gotta take him out with the song, man.
All right, they asked for it, so I got you. Here it comes.
Oh no, he left you.
Check it out.
Oh no.
The Commanders.
Oh no.
Every time they
Oh. Hey. Hey, look, I just want everybody to know. And you know, it's funny because a lot of people rock with that song, and that's fine. I don't tell anybody how to feel, but I'm like, that's not representative of the entire fan base. Just understand that. Right? I got both hands up. It's not just my left hand. So Commanders fans are split on that thing. I just like, I'm happy for them, right? The team embraced them, brought them out, they performed the song, all that good stuff. But yeah, that ain't mine.
It grew on me. I think eventually Cravante is going to grow on him too.
I don't know if it ain't grown on him yet, man. I don't think it's gonna happen. I don't think it's gonna happen. I don't think it's gonna happen. I thought about. I was like, maybe it'll grow on me. Nah, it
ain't the thing. I got you. It ain't your thing.
Oh man.
Oh man. Good stuff, man. Thank you for coming on, and we definitely look forward to bringing you back, brother.
Right. No doubt, man. Anytime, y'all hit me up if y'all need me.
Yes, sir.
All right, man. Peace.
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 One more time, man, for Lou T, man.
And shout out to Darius as well for coming on. You know.
Yes. You know what?
Darius as well.
And you know what? I want to give a hand clap to Cravante because this is the first time that we done talked this long about the Commanders, anything Washington related.
This show was dedicated to you.
Hey, brother, yeah, man. Y'all know I love y'all, man. I really, really appreciate it, man. And y'all headed out the park with the guests, man. Reaching out, making it happen quickly. So I appreciate it. It don't happen often, and I will cherish this. Okay. Please.
You know what? We do got a little bit of time left in the show, and we can't.
We ain't little.
Without mentioning
we just gonna be honest. We ain't getting to the NBA playoffs. Sorry, we not doing that. But we can talk Aaron Rodgers, and we can get to the goofies of the week. Then we can get the hell up on out of here.
So the Aaron Rodgers trade happened earlier today, and let's see what exactly did the Jets get for the Aaron Rodgers trade. So the Jets and Aaron Rodgers is going to the Jets, and the Jets get Aaron Rodgers, the number 15 pick, and a 2023 fifth round pick. The Packers get the Jets 13 number pick. They get the 2023 second round pick, which is number 42, the sixth round pick, which is pick number 207, and a conditional 2024 second round pick that becomes a first if Aaron Rodgers plays 65% of the plays, which will happen. And then I want to quickly also say that there's a lot of similarities between both Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre. They fell in the draft. Neither was great their first year as a starter. They both became unbelievable and were beloved in their prime. Started talking about retirement near the end. Regular season success, but not much postseason success. Leaves after about 15 to 16 seasons, and both went to the Jets. So Aaron Rodgers followed right in the footsteps of the guy who was before him, Brett Favre. So now we have it that Aaron Rodgers is now officially a Jet. Gentlemen, take the floor with your thoughts.
I'm going to go first real quick. I told you I wanted this to happen because I don't want Lamar Jackson in a New York Jets jersey. So thank God got him. It is a wrap. It is finally official. Shout out to my man Quincy, who's a huge Jets fan. They finally got a quarterback worth something, at least for a couple years.
Oh, yeah, Q, yes. Congrats. Yes.
Congrats to Q. I think this is a good trade for the New York Jets. They have been in quarterback hell for the past, I guess, decade or 2 decades, I guess. Even when they had the butt fumbler.
Mark Sanchez.
Sanchez.
The Sanchez, as they used to call them
The,
back in the
the
day.
Sanchez, yeah, the Sanchez, they call him that.
So I mean, this is a good thing for the New York Jets. I to be honest with you, I know I make fun of them. I said plenty of terrible things about them over this show, but I think this is the actual real time that they're going to actually make the playoffs and actually have a chance to win a championship. They have every ingredient. They have a great defense. They have a pretty good offense. They signed a couple pieces over this year. They got a lot of Aaron Rodgers old weapons in Green Bay, which is a good thing. They still have a chance to go out there and get some more people in the draft, of course. And I think they're going to be in a really prime position to actually do something this year. So I think this is a great trade for the New York Jets. I think this is a perfect time for the Packers to start over again. They seem to have a lot of success from going from quarterback to quarterback to quarterback. So I think Jordan Love, this might be his time to actually shine. I think this is his third year, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, so
It's almost time for that 5th-year option.
yeah, it's
That's what
almost time for the 5th-year option. But I look at it this way. I mean, when Aaron Rodgers was behind Brett Favre, I think it took him about 2 years to at least start. So I think this is right on time for Jordan Love. I think this is going to be a great thing for the Packers, and I think the trade is going to work out well for both teams. The Jets are going to get what they want. The Packers are going to get what they want, and Aaron Rodgers, who's a diva already, is going to be even more diva-licious in New York. So it works out perfectly. But yeah, those are my thoughts. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to be great for the Packers. I mean, for the Jets, and I think this is going to work out perfectly for the Packers because they haven't missed yet.
Ronson?
Gosh, man, where do I start? I'm glad that the Jets did not get as fleeced as I thought they would have. Because I know that 13th pick was probably what was holding this up. It looked like in the beginning the Jets were doing everything for Aaron Rodgers without, like getting all that stuff for the significant other before they become your significant other, and being very goofy in that sense. So basically, you're doing everything for Aaron Rodgers and still doing the bidding, as our good friend D would say, for the Green Bay Packers. And I was like, the Jets, what are y'all doing? Like, I know the Jets are goofy and they need a quarterback, but you ain't got to do all this. Like, y'all have some leverage in this because we all know the Packers have come out. They played their hand way early. We going forward with Jordan Love. That's what they said. They're moving forward with Jordan Love, which means Aaron Rodgers is out. Y'all ain't have to do no Aaron. Y'all ain't have to do no Lazard pickup or none of that other goofiness to appease Aaron Rodgers. But in the end, you got your guy. So I guess it was all. Well, at least for now, you got him. So it was worth it. We'll look later on this year to see if it was really worth it. But they got their guy. The Packers are going to move forward with Mr. Love. I'm going to be very interested to see how that unfolds. But Aaron Rodgers wanted to go. The Packers wanted him to go. And the Jets wanted him. So in that sense, it checked all the boxes. I do think the NFC North is wide open.
Oh, of course.
It's absolutely wide open. And the AFC East will be more competitive. And I'm gonna go out on a limb, which is not really going out on a limb, and say the Jets will not be last this year.
Oh yeah, within that division, the Patriots might be last because you got Aaron Rodgers right there. You got the Bills, the Dolphins. It depends on the health of Tua.
So this is how I look at. Excuse me. This is how I generally look at the divisions. I rank the quarterbacks. Mostly I rank the quarterbacks, and so I try to do like a quarterback head coach
Mhm.
combination, but straight up, you can look at the quarterbacks and pretty much kind of tell, how it's going to go. Zach Wilson to Aaron Rodgers, that does not sound like the seller to me. Mac Jones, McCorkle Jones, sounds like the seller. And Bill Belichick, unfortunately, with his goofiness, having his defensive coordinator be his offensive coordinator, yeah, he should have been in the cellar for that. But the Jets were so terrible, it didn't matter. But it seemed to work out for everybody. I'm glad it happened because this had been in the talks and been in the works for months. And also, it happened before the draft, so now they can put those picks, those first round picks, into play. So I'm glad it happened sooner rather than later.
All right, and gentlemen, let me ask you this real quick before we get to Goofies of the Week. No, we're not going to talk about the end of the NBA playoffs, but some other breaking news happened today. Ime Udoka is now the head coach of the Houston Rockets. They have not come out with the details behind how long this the agreement is, but he does have another head coaching job. So I wanted to get you guys' thoughts before we close out the show.
You can go, Gravante. You can go first.
Man, you can't hold a black man down, baby. But seriously, we all know, generally speaking, historically speaking, when a black man messes up, it's hard to recover. Especially when you're in a prominent position, it's hard to recover, and the chances are you will never get back. Like it's an absurd amount. Like we see it all over in sports, in regular life, in any form of business. The black man mess up, it's a wrap. It's usually a wrap, whether it be because of something they did on the job or off the job. So for him to be able to get back to the same rank that he was in previously is a really, really, really good thing to see. And I'm beyond happy for him, because on top of that, won't have that many black brothers in charge of these organizations, or in charge, or at least having prominent roles in these organizations and these franchises. So I am glad to see this. Now, Houston, boy, oh boy, you got a project on your hands, brother. You have a project on your hands. But what he was able to do with the Celtics, can he translate to what he's able to do with the Rockets in the future? Who knows? I don't know about championship, but the West is open. So if there's a time to change an organization around, it's right now. LeBron James is old. Steph Curry is old. You know what I'm saying? And
KD, yeah, we can keep going down the list. That whole era.
CP3, all these people are old. And the young boys, the old guys are old, obviously, and the young guys are too immature to really learn, to really know how to win. So this is perfect timing for Ime Udoka to pull the Houston Rockets out of the pits of Texas moving forward. So yeah, I like it. I'm happy for the brother.
Uncle Raj.
I just want to say this, man. I'm glad that this brother has a second chance. I would have hated if he never got a chance again to be a head coach. So I'm very happy to see that he's getting a second chance. With that said, yes, this Houston Rockets team is a young team. It's going to take a lot of work for them to be a playoff team, but I think with his coaching skills and the way that he transformed the Boston Celtics from a playoff team, but a damn near contending team last season, I think that he can possibly he can definitely make the Houston Rockets a lot better than what they are. It's a good hire for them as well. He's a great head coach. But hopefully he learned his lesson. Hopefully he stays out of trouble, out of the limelight.
Oh God!
Keep your Udoka.
Hey, go ahead, yo.
Keep
Hey,
your
go
ego
ahead.
cut in your damn pants. All right. I don't want to hear nothing about none of that nonsense anymore. We have too many
Uh,
issues. Too many issues.
man, oh
So,
man.
but anyways, congratulations for him getting the
Yes,
Houston Rockets.
congratulations to him. And you know what? We about to close out the show with our good brother. It's
Hey,
time to
wait,
do.
what you think?
Oh, what I think?
Yeah.
I think that look, at the end of the day, he deserved to be a head coach. I mean, you're in your rookie year, one out of five head coaches in the past 25 years to make it to the NBA Finals, damn near almost winning it. You know, the Warriors won at six, but hats off to him for him in his first year because we had talked about for years saying that Boston, when are they going to make it to the finals? Wondering about Brown and Tatum, and now for them to do it. Um, I think that he deserved a chance, and I think that if he was Boston's coach right now, we would honestly be. I mean, right now we're saying Boston's a favorite. No, I think Boston would win it with this guy as the head coach. Yes, it's going to take some time in Houston, but I think that it's going to show you even more why this man is brilliant. Wow, because I know that he's going to be able to turn the Houston Rockets around. And then, like we had said off air when we were talking about this hiring, a lot of these guys are on their way out. Just give it a few just give it a few years. I don't think that this has to be a rush job to me. I think that through the draft and free agency, you can slowly build this team back to the days of James Harden because, you can build it to the days of James Harden. But right now, you're looking at these players such as James Harden, LeBron James, Kevin Durant, CP3 that you were naming. They're on their way out. Dame Dollars, So I think that just give him some time, and he can show you why he deserved to be a head coach in this league. And I'm glad that the brothers get another opportunity.
That's right.
All right. So we ready for Goofies of the week now?
Oh, you got the sound effect, baby?
Of course I do.
Hey, get the sound effect, baby!
All right. Brought to you by the Flex Zone. These are Goofies of the week.
Of course. Something wrong here.
I love it every time, man.
Thank you guys for that. I'm so glad Goofy was able to make it yet another week for Goofies of the week. Of course, welcome as Goofy just said, welcome. Goofies of the week sponsored by the Flex Zone. I appreciate you guys for giving me a little bit of time to let me tell the good people what I thought was goofy this week. Now, this week was an interesting week when it comes to my decision for Goofies of the week. First things first. Y'all already know I have two levels of goofiness. I have low level Packer and Jet Green, who weren't goofy today because they finally got the Aaron Rodgers deal done. Took them long enough, but still Jet Green and Packer Green, low level goofy. And you know how that goes. It's really low. It's low level, so it's usually pretty funny. And we laugh, we joke, we kiki in the hopes that it does not grow to become the high level goofy, which is Cardinal Sin Red. This is when it becomes a high level goofy, and now it's no longer funny, and we have to congregate and figure out how we can get past this, how we can figure out a way to do better. So, I'm gonna talk generally about these two goofies and their impact, their negative impact on their team's series is what makes them goofy. And I guess we could vote because I'm really going back and forth whether I want them to be high level or low level goofies. I'm leaning high, but excuse me, we could determine afterwards. So I want to start by saying villains are not the same. Sports villains are not the same as they used to be. Villains were real life, were real villains. Like I'm talking like, the Detroit Pistons back in the day. Dennis Rodman back in the day. More so now with the Pistons, but with the Chicago Bulls. Just when we go down the list of guys who've built a reputation on being the mean, nasty, or even dare I say dirty guys in the league, and they have basically they built a name on that. I don't know about these new ones, man. I just don't know. I don't know about these new cats, man. I'm gonna talk about two, and they both in the Western Conference. So, if y'all have been under a rock, Draymond Green of the Golden State Warriors was suspended in Game 3 of their matchup with the Sacramento Kings, and they were down 0-2, and the series shifted back to Golden State in San Francisco, and I thought that was a terrible time for Draymond Green to get, I almost said arrested, to get suspended. So let me paint this picture real quick for you guys that didn't see it. Him and Sabonis have basically been going at it the entire series. I thought he was antagonized a little bit, but it's easy to do because when you antagonize the antagonizer, they're gonna do it back. The straw that broke the camel's back was Sabonis fell to the ground. I think there was off of a rebound. Steph Curry actually had the ball, but here go Sabonis and Draymond Green looking like Dennis Rodman and Karl Malone, getting tangled up with one another and falling and all that. Sabonis grabbed Draymond Green's foot, and Draymond Green tries to snatch his foot out of Sabonis' grasp. And after he does, he proceeds to stomp on Sabonis's stomach, ribs, that area. And Sabonis, my God, screamed in pain. I don't know if that was real or not, but I think if a grown man stomps his feet on you, it probably would hurt. And as a result, he got suspended for Game 3, a crucial game because the Warriors, like I said, was down 0-2. Now, I feel like back in the days, villains knew the line. And granted, maybe we could say officiating has changed and the rules of the game has changed. But I feel like villains back in the day knew what line to not cross in regards to not being a detriment to their basketball team. I can't believe and I know the Sacramento Kings are much better at home than the road, and the Warriors are phenomenal at home. The Kings had a grand opportunity to stick their foot on the Warriors' neck, being up 2-0 without probably their best defender on the team. But to my point, Draymond Green put his team in that situation. I feel like he doesn't know. There's no line that he wouldn't cross. And I think it's to the detriment of the Golden State Warriors. We could point to 2016. I want to say in Game 4, he kick LeBron James in his groin area, and he got suspended for Game 5, in which they were up 3-1. Yeah, they were up 3-1 going into Game 5, and everything else was history. LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers, Kyrie and the Cleveland Cavaliers, were able to pull off 3 straight and win in 7 games. But the turning point was Draymond Green. Hopefully this doesn't happen for the Warriors in the King series. But the series is now tied. He was able to come out for game 4, and they won game 4 also. So now it's tied. But I just think he went a bit far in being goofy with Sabonis and putting his team in a terrible situation. So that's one. Next one, Dylan Brooks with the Minnesota Grizzlies. What are you doing? I think this one's for you, Dre. This is one of your light-skinned brothers. One of your light-skinned brothers trying to be a villain. And I just think he's getting absolutely smashed in the process of trying to become a villain.
Hey, look, if you got an S curl, I think being a villain is right up there, man.
Okay, so Dylan Brooks, for whatever reason, I feel like I don't care how old LeBron James gets, there ain't much you can do to affect LeBron James' game. I just don't think. I don't care how old LeBron gets. I feel like Dylan Brooks can't do nothing with LeBron.
Oh,
Straight up. Straight. Can't do nothing with him. In the next 3 years, if there was another match between them two, Dylan Brooks still wouldn't be able to do nothing with LeBron. You know what I'm saying? Like, because Dylan Brooks, I don't think he's that good. I don't think he's that good. He's benefiting from a young and upcoming team, and there's already a superstar on your team. So I guess he feels as though, oh, well, in doubt, I'll just lean on Ja or Jaren Jackson, but I'll play this role while they do that. I'll try, keyword try, because I don't think he's doing a great job at. Also, he, similar to Draymond Green, got ejected for hitting. First of all, I don't know why people keep messing with LeBron James' groin area. I don't know what's going on. Why does people feel the need to? They don't want no more LeBron. They don't want no more LeBron James of children to come into the league. I think that's what's going on. Like, you ain't getting no more kids out of here to dominate us, because it's weird that it's surrounding LeBron James groin, and we're not gonna make this segment about that. But it's not a coincidence, no more. I don't think it's more of a trend, if anything. Dylan Brooks gets ejected. I don't even remember what game was that. Was that game 4?
No. They're playing game 4 now. So
game
3.
He gets ejected for swinging in LeBron James no section. Again, putting your team in a terrible situation, because the benefit that you have with your team is your presence. And with you not being there, you are letting your team down. And let's not forget, this is the goddamn playoffs. Every possession, every game counts. And when you don't play, you're putting your team in this terrible, horrible situation in which they could now lose. And mind you, it don't help that Ja Morant is not healthy. So these two goofies are they're not doing the villain game right. I think Dennis Rodman or anybody on the Bad Boys Pistons need to write a book, or at least give these brothers an outline on how it's supposed to be done. Is it this? What Paul say?
Paul called him a serial offender.
Listen, brother.
Appreciate you staying up with us too, Paul.
So yeah, those are my goofies of the week. I think because of the reasoning, well, them being goofy in general, but also because of the detriment to their team, I'm gonna lean high level goofy. What do you guys say?
High level.
Definitely high level.
This is the postseason. Stop it.
Get off his.
Get off his. You know what?
Udoka.
That's hilarious. But anyway, I think they are both high level goofies, as the team agrees. Dylan Brooks and Draymond Green. Y'all know my line. There's a thin line between goofy and great, and those brothers are on the wrong end of it. Got to do better, y'all.
Yeah, of course. Something wrong here.
Up every time, man. I always forget about Goofy, but um, love the sound effect. Love today's episode and our guests. So one more time, clap it up for Darius and Louis T. Look, hey, Raj, you going live Wednesday?
I'm going live. Oh
AEW?
yeah. Barbara should be back Wednesday. We got the whole Goofy gang in the building as far as the wrestling content is concerned.
Real wrestling.
So we'll be chopping it up with them.
And of course, Thursday live for the draft. Both days the crew will be cutting it up, y'all. So make sure y'all stay tuned. We're slowly approaching episode 400 is coming very, very soon. Stay tuned for that. And thank y'all all for tuning in and bearing with us for these past 2 hours. We appreciate y'all. And until next time, y'all, remember, we the ones, not the twos. Peace.
We gone. And stay tuned for more of those NFL draft prospects. More of them is coming soon. So stay tuned for that. Anyways, we out of here. Peace.